Hi, everyone. Jim Crawford here with the Business of Law podcast. Welcome back again. This is actually our second podcast. We have Tyler and Garrett, our producers and directors. Gentlemen, how are you doing?
Good.
Good. We're actually going to make a second podcast, which is a good sign because we're still alive and still doing what we need to do. This, what I decided to work on today is one of my favorite topics, and I talk to a lot of kids, meaning high school, college, and even adults about this subject. And it's something near and dear to my heart. And I'm going to go through it. I'm not going to necessarily get into a lot of detail with each of these things, but it's actually chapter 31 of my latest book, An American Lawyer. A lot of these things are kind of in the public realm a little bit, the public sphere, but I kind of mastered them and played around with them and put some new touches on them, which I think a lot of people are going to find very, very interesting. First, something I want to get into a habit of doing every podcast, I want to introduce a new book every time we do this. It may have nothing to do with the topic at hand, but it's something kind of sort of in the business of law realm. Profit first. Get it, read it, digest it, take your time with it, mark it up, get it on Audible or get it in the bookstore. Mike Malkovich wrote it several years ago. And in a nutshell, what it talks about is how to stop being a slave to everyone else in your business and really try to do some damage as far as helping yourself and your family and your employees by paying yourself first. Good book. I may do a podcast on this later on. I really thought it was one of the good ones. I read back in early 18, I think, and I really, really liked it. So I thought I'd point it out to everyone, and we'll go from there. Okay, number one. These are good. This is going to be a list of items that I think everyone will find interesting, and let's talk about what we're going to do here. A second book that I want to introduce today does fit into the equation of what we're talking about here today, and it's Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. Many people have read it. I've given, I can't count how many of these books out I've given to people, high school kids, college kids, and even adults. And get it, read it. This book was actually written, believe it or not, guys, back in 1938. Okay, Napoleon Hill, he's written a lot of books. This is the one he's known for. I would say there's not an executive, anyone who's learned, anyone who is trying to do something in business and do well has read this book. And I think I've probably read it 25 times in my life, okay? And it's something that you pick it up the first time and everyone thinks, well, it's like one of the modern, quick, feel-good, do something well for yourself and try to feel good for a couple minutes to achieve success. Not what this book is all about. And in fact, if you want that, don't read it, okay? Don't read it. This is a book that's going to take you several times to sit down and read and go through, and you're going to have to outline it. I'm going to go through it very, very briefly because it ties into a lot of the processes and thoughts that I have written in chapter 31 about stop lying to yourself. And I mean that. Stop lying to yourself. And the biggest issue with that is that people really don't see themselves as far as where they really are in life and what they want to achieve. We all live with this kind of like a veil over our face sometimes, about where we are in life and what we're doing. And, most people never take that veil off. And that's okay because most people don't give a damn. But for the people that do give a damn, this is going to be something that you're really going to enjoy, I think, today. So, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. And by the way, this may be one of the top 5 most widely sold and purchased books in the history of this country. No exaggeration. Up there. Okay, it's not, like I said, there's not an executive, someone who's successful in business that hasn't read it. In fact, for years before the COVID scenario, you could go to any large city in this country And you could find a think tank, or as he calls it, a mastermind, in any major city to go to and sit around talking to people about this book. And there's a lot of people online that talk about it now because there's a lot to debate about it. Okay, the book itself, Think and Grow Rich. He talks about several things and several items that he believes is the recipe for success. Now, how the hell does that happen? Is there really a recipe? I mean, is this chicken noodle soup? What the hell are we talking about here? We're not talking about that. Back in the day, back in his day, there were a lot of, not a lot, but several people, the Vanderbilts, the other gurus who created, major corporations in this country. And he wanted to find out what are the common elements that make people successful. So he sat around and taught, and he sought these people out, and he wanted to find out some commonalities. One of the things that he found out was, above everything else, he uses the word a burning desire. You have to have a burning desire. Now, what does that mean? Well, I have a burning desire to eat dinner tonight, right? I have a burning desire to get some sleep maybe tonight. But what does the burning desire really mean? And you have to read the book to think about that. And everybody's different in what they mean by that. Your definition of hard work may be totally different than my definition of hard work. And that equates into what burning desire means. But it has to be there. And it has to be that unexplainable element that permeates everything you do, no matter what you do, no matter how down you are about the subject matter, no matter how down you are about accomplishing what you want to accomplish. You have to have that burning desire above everything else to get you to where you need to be. Simple words, right? I think Elvis Presley said it, something like that, maybe in one of his songs or a couple of his songs, right? But the point is, burning desire. You have to have it. If you don't have it, you're not going to take that first step. And, as a side note, I think a lot of people do think that they have burning desire when they really don't, okay? And I think the end result speaks for itself. Number 2, auto-suggestion. What the hell does that mean? Well, he says in his book that you have to create a short memory of failures, a long memory of success, but you have to suggest success in your life. I'll give you an example. Now, he doesn't give us an example, but I'll give you an example. You're a professional athlete. You're playing baseball down at Camden Yards, and you've gone 0 for 5 in the last 2 games. Bases are loaded, game situation. You've not done well at the plate lately. You have to continue to suggest to yourself about success. You have to find a way to program your brain. And he gets into it deeper than I am going to today, but he gets into it from the standpoint that you have to almost have an automatic response of success in yourself. How do you do that? By keep doing it over and over and over. Thank you, ma'am, may I have another? Thank you, ma'am, may I have another? Keep hitting me. Do whatever it takes to get to that point. So you have to have a ability to continue to suggest automatically. It's got to get so bad that it's got to be deep in your soul. I'll tell you what I used to do. You laugh at it, but I used to have it on my phone. I used to have it on I found a way to put it on my cover where I could, when I picked it up, I saw what I was trying to do, bottom line. And so that kind of permeated into my end result. Specialized knowledge, okay? Really common sense, right? But most people don't think about it. You want to be successful as a doctor, you better, go to medical school. You want to be a lawyer, go to law school. You want to be a specialist in media, understand the media. The more you understand about a product, more than anybody else, the more successful you're going to be. It can't be just bits and pieces. You have to be better than everybody else as far as that specialized knowledge. Without specialized knowledge, no one's going to want what you're selling. It's just not. That's just the way it works. Imagination. This is a subject that I think is fascinating. I certainly lack a lot of professional skills, especially when it comes to mathematics and things like that, and everybody's laughing, but this is true. The one thing I do not lack is imagination. I've always had it since I was a kid, and I really believe that it's not necessarily a brain functional scenario. I think that you can train yourself to imagine. Probably never going to be somebody who invents or is a Houdini or something like that, but you can create a thought process in your mind where you learn to create and to think and to imagine and to dream. I equate dreaming as imagination. Organized planning. This is next one. Yes, you have to have a game plan, obviously. Okay, game plan for success. Now we've gone over burning desire, auto-suggestion, specialized knowledge, imagination, and now you're at the planning phase. Presumably, with all these things, you have some kind of game plan. Oh, Garrett, we want to start a business. Okay? I've actually visualized a business. I've sat down before I fall asleep and I'm thinking, it's a warehouse. The warehouse is this big, and this is how I'm going to assemble this. This is what I'm going to be charging, and this is what I'm going to be doing. I've imagined it, I've created it, and guess what? We're doing it because I've had burning desire, okay? So imagination, organized planning, decision making. You have to make good decisions, okay? So many of us put off things and decisions that we don't want to do. For example, just at the law firm here, you know, I'm making probably a day, probably 1 or 2 or 3 big decisions that could change the course of what we're doing. The smaller decisions come and go. Okay, you know, what kind of ice cream am I eating tonight? But, you know, the big decisions, but they have to be made profoundly and with intent. Decision making, persistence. That means, yep, I wanted to do this. I went to work out for 3 months, and I stopped, and I'm done. I'm overweight now, and I'm eating horribly. No, it's got to be something that you do over and over and over again. Okay. And the power of confidence. Okay, you have to have this ability to create confidence within yourself to make all this happen. Now, think about what I just said. These items. People may think, oh well, what the hell are they, and how. They all add up to basically a feature or an end result of creating physical reality. You know, I mean, we all know this is common sense. Everything in life starts with an electronic impulse in our brain, right? Everything's a thought. I mean, this pen was somebody's thought, right? These glasses, this microphone, everything was a thought. And it's a beautiful equation. But people don't realize that that's really the way it works. You know, you think and you go through this list, and it is what it is. I would say that everything we went through is really simplifying this. Okay, really simplifying. And in addition to what I just kind of laid out there, he creates, he pushes 2 other things: visualization and masterminds. And you guys probably know from being here, what do you hear from me all the time? Masterminds, right? I believe masterminds are really, really big. Now here's where it gets weird. And you know, people are going to start looking at me or thinking like, what the hell, Crawford? His mastermind is actually a board of directors that he created in his mind of people throughout history, understanding their personalities, at least the best you can through history, where they would actually sit around and he would imagine himself at a table with a board of directors where they would give him advice about what's going on with his business and his next business move. I mean, can you imagine having, you know, Jesus Christ sitting at your board of directors, right? Can you imagine having Muhammad sitting at you, right? Can you imagine having, you know, any president? But now, of course, we don't know their full personalities, but we can denote and take major thought processes that they have and bring that to the table. He has once a week he did when he was alive, once a week board of director meetings. And this is how he came to conclusions about things. I did that. And I honestly, it's not easy. It's like, okay, really? it's like kind of meditating. But I found that I could do it for a while, and then I kind of loses me, and I kind of go back to it, and I get re-inspired 6 months later. You know what? I'm gonna do a mastermind, and I sit there at night as opposed to having the TV on. And I'm thinking, I've actually written out where I sit around a table with different people where I'm going to be or what they would advise me to do. Pretty interesting stuff. So mastermind, visualization. Out of everything I just talked about, this is how he pulls it all together. And I would say that he was so far advanced as far as this thought process in society. Now it's just an everyday thing. I go back to baseball. You're going up to the plate. What are you doing? You're visualizing how you're swinging at the ball. When you're giving a speech, you're visualizing how you're giving that speech. When I go up and I talk to a jury, I'm giving my closing or opening, I'm visualizing that. When I'm talking to people here at the office, I'm visualizing that. That is something that you do over and over again. There are people that will advocate that you can visualize, never do it, and become really good at it. And I believe that to a degree. But visualization is something. Now, I'm going to leave Napoleon Hill alone for a minute, and we'll revisit it. But this whole thought process may seem oblique, abstract. It may seem like whatever. But I guarantee you, those who get into this and think about this are going to be successful in life. They're going to be successful not just in life, but also in business or whatever they're doing. They're going to realize that in order to rise to the next level, okay, you have to take it to that next level. Okay, you have to take it to the next level. All right, so let's get into Jim Crawford's points as far as what I think you could do right now today if you just apply these principles, what you could do to really kind of enhance your life as far as business, finances, everything. Okay, back to number one. Okay, taking everything I just said, look at where you are in life and really see it. Okay? And you know how hard that is? It's almost impossible. It's very difficult. The only way you get to that is if you strip different levels down by reading books like this, and there's a lot of other books, but even talking to people, meditating, really looking at where you are completely across the board and asking yourself, am I happy where I am? Okay? That's a question that you really have to answer, and you have to start off with that. So many people go through life just kind of skating. Okay? Some people skate so quickly to success, they don't know why they're doing that. They're just doing it. Other people are, man, I can't even fucking skate one time to get me to success. So, but it all starts with sitting down and really look at your life. Look at your bank account. Look at who the people are around you. Look at your job. Look what you're doing every day. Look where you're going. Where are you going to be 5 years from now, 3 years from now, 1 year from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? Where are you going to be? All right. So you got to first figure out where you are. Then, common sense. You then have to design your plan. But here's the issue with that. Okay. I think they did a study years ago about people in showers. When you get up in the morning, you take a hot shower. More people imagine, dream, and think in the shower. But 15 minutes later, you're on to real life, and then that's all gone. Here's the key, in my opinion. This right here. Here's the key. Not my fingers or my thumb, the pen. All right? You have to freaking write it down. There's something about that. Writing it down, memorializing it, put yourself in a situation where you can hold yourself accountable for it. It's a small step, but it is what it is. And I tell people all the time, I probably told you guys, get a little diary book. I keep books that, little black books that I write everything in. And it's not like a diary, like Dear Diary, I feel sad today, or whatever. It's not that. It's about different processes and procedures. Like I'll sit down and I'll just brainstorm. Another side note, here's something very interesting. I promise you, do this once and you'll be amazed. get your book, get your pen, okay? No tea, no coffee, nothing. Don't sit in the normal chair you're in. Go sit somewhere else, open it up, and just start thinking. I'm telling you, just start thinking. And all of a sudden, the old bumper stick shit happens. It's amazing. And they say on average, it's about 17 to 25 minutes before what happens is your brain kind of lets go of everything and all the abstract cords that are being held onto to keep you in the moment. You're all of a sudden, and then there's a window. The window, they say, is like about 35 minutes, 45 minutes. And of course, I think you could probably stretch it on for hours if you want to, but you lose a lot of that. Sometimes a quick cup of coffee will get it back for you, whatever. But promise you, try that one time. Try it. And you can even set the parameters. It really, really helps point you in the right direction. So design your plan, write it down. There was, I'll take it this far, and Napoleon Hill says this. Jim Carrey, the actor, he was a goof when he was like a teenager. He loved to spoof on people, what have you. And if anybody would have told you that he was going to be as successful as he is when he was a kid, they would have laughed at you, and that's kind of what he wanted. But he one day, when he was a young adult, like 20, 21 years old, took out his checkbook, and he wrote himself a check. $10 million, Jim Carrey, okay? And he dated it like 10 years from now. He put that son of a bitch away, and he was able to cash that like 15 years later, okay? But he constantly reminded himself. He put it in his wallet, he pulled it out and looked at it, okay? There's a power. It doesn't cure everything. It's not like, well, I wrote the thing down, I'm good to go. See you in the White House in 5 years, okay? It doesn't work like that. But it certainly starts to connect the dots in your brain as far as what you need to do to move forward. Write the damn thing down. All right, you've heard me say this before, and I've said this to kids. Next one is no excuses. Because I know every fucking excuse there is, believe me. Because I've tried it, I've done it, I still do it, I still fight against it. I don't want to do it today, I don't feel well. I'm this or that, I want to sleep in, I want to do this. I want to lay in bed for an extra half an hour and dream about this. I don't want to do this. It's just a pain in the ass. Why this? I feel bad, Garrett. I feel bad. I just don't feel good, man. Okay? I don't feel good. And I just want to feel better. And I just want to pretend that I'm successful and not really look at the issues that really need to be looked at to really be successful, okay? Stop making excuses. I will tell you this, that 90% of people don't even know what that fucking means. They think it means like dieting. Oh, don't have that Wendy's burger today, which I love, by the way, and it's a constant fight. It's a feel-good food for me. Growing up in the 70s and 80s, fast food for my generation was like, wow. I mean, really, it was big deal. I mean, it was like you go to McDonald's as a treat. There's fries. Even today, like a Coca-Cola at McDonald's is like a freaking elixir. Has a drug. It's like cocaine to me. Is what it is. And not to mention the the chicken at Royal Farms. I mean, I was just telling one of our other lawyers today. They were talking about. I don't really drink anymore. I mean, very seldom. I think I have more chicken hangovers than I do ever did with and it's worse. Your body. It must be an age thing. I don't know, but somehow it's getting to me. No excuse, guys. All right, here comes another one. Okay, I think I've talked probably 200 people that are working here at this office by this next one, a balanced life. Let's just have a balanced life. Just like let's eat our fruit, vegetable, and meats, and we'll be fine. Okay, let's just be balanced. You be balanced, and you'll eventually die and go to heaven. You'll be in a balanced situation. Bullshit. Okay. You got to make a choice. If you make your choices, you want to be successful. There is no balanced life. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry about that, okay? I didn't invent this, all right? Balanced means a lot of different things. And as soon as I say that, every person, every millennial, everybody under that age, look at me like, okay, see you later. I'm shutting my brain down. I'm not doing it. But I will say this to them. Try it for a year. Tell me I'm just going to curse. Tell me how fucking successful you are at it. Okay? It won't work. You can't balance anything. Okay? If you want to go to the beach, you want to get a certain amount of sun and the water, and okay, balance that. You're not going to balance success. You're not going to balance your work and your life. It's not going to happen. If you want to do that, keep trying and write me 20 years from now if I'm still around and tell me if it works. It's not going to. A balanced life in my world means basically that you do everything you're doing 1,000% at that time. Okay, when you're working, you do it 1,000%. Okay, you may have a week where you're working 90% of your life is work. You may have another week which, you know what, forget it. I'm out for a minute. I need a couple. I just need to do what I need to do. Nothing to do with balanced. There's no balance there. You do what you need to do to be successful. And you know the funny thing about it? People that are successful find a way to get what they need in order to be successful. Okay? Most people think, how many hours a night do you sleep, Tyler, approximately?
Probably
5. Okay. Now, okay, good point. Now, 6 months ago, how many hours were you sleeping?
2, 3.
No, 6 months ago. Yeah.
Yeah, like full night.
Okay. So all of a sudden, you don't need that full night, do you? What about you? Do you? 6. Okay. Here's the funny thing about it is you get older, and I've heard this, 2, 3, 4 hours sleep a lot of times. Now, once in a while, you got to get that REM sleep for a few hours and do it and whatever. I hear people say all the time, oh, you got to have 6 to 8 and it changes your life. Well, change their life because it doesn't change my life. I know a lot of people that do what they do. That doesn't mean everybody's not different. But the point is that a balanced life, you don't always have to get what you think you need. You know what the biggest thing is I found? As I'm a little bit into, I'm a lot into exercise, but a little bit into nutrition. I really don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but I know a little bit. And the more I get into it, you think 3 meals a day. Do you really need 3 meals a day? Who tells you need that? Okay. I mean, the other night I didn't eat dinner. I'm like, oh my God, the freaking world! I didn't eat dinner, Tyler. I mean, I didn't eat it. Can you believe it? And it's like, you think your world's going to come to a freaking end. No, you're programmed, man, and it does your body good. So it's okay. You don't have to be pre-programmed to get the sleep that you need to get. You don't need to do this. You could do things differently. All of us are programmed so much by society that I think it hurts us. No excuses, no balanced life. Okay. All right, here's another one. Hours actually worked. There was an unknown couple of lawyers, I won't mention names, but I usually work on Saturdays and Sundays. And I used to always just come in and get my donut on a Saturday morning and spend my time, do what I do, and I put my time in for the Saturday, then I'm done, or I do something with kids, baseball as I got older, when the kids are grown, go out with my wife, go to dinner that night, whatever. But I'd always come and do some work, okay? And I noticed a lot of lawyers, or several lawyers, would come in, and their asses are there early in the morning, and they're still there late at night. But then I look at the productivity, and it's like almost nothing. A lot of us get caught in this fog of doing things over and over and over again from a standpoint of thinking that we just need to be there. It's very difficult. I'll tell you right now that as I get older and I fall into a different mindset as far as what I'm doing here at the office. Well, I just had a jury trial last week. They're few and far between now. I'm not practicing as much as I used to. Well, they keep freaking dragging me back into it, but it is what it is. And so that's changing. But I realize that it's only going to change if I make it change. So I used to have, this is how bad it was. If my backside was not in the car going to court or the office every day, then I was like, there's something wrong. I can't stay home. right? And this, of course, is where I got, hit it on the long side of the head by a few people about working remotely and things like that. And that's, yes, the brain finally comes around. It's okay to do that a little bit. I get that, and there's times when you got to do that. So I've changed with that, but the point is that we're programmed, right? Your program, we're all programmed to do certain things, to do it a certain way. And that stigmatizes and it prevents us from growing, okay? So really analyzing what you're doing every day, what the productivity is, and how successful you are with that means a lot. So figure out how much you're actually working on this. Okay, accountability and consistency. I threw this in the book because do you think you're accountable to yourself, really? Reality? Tyler, what do you think?
I let myself slide every now and then.
What about you, Garrett? Yeah, same. I can tell you right now I'm a slacker with that accountability. Really. And we don't even know it. It's one of those things that, if you're going to win at something, don't you at least have to know what you're winning and what it means to win? Okay? If you're going to hold yourself accountable, what the hell does that mean? I worked hard this week. Well, great. That's fucking great. But where did it get you? Where's the accountability to all these other things? And you have to write them down. You have to think about them. You have to hold yourself accountable. Okay? And you have to do it consistently. Here's something that people look at me kind of funny about. And, it's weird because our society's changing with social media and online stuff, but constantly reading. Constantly. Audible's become a big friend to me. I mean, because I drive so much and back and forth. And what I'll do is I'll buy an Audible book, and then I'll buy the book itself, and I'll look at it, I'll mark it up, and then when I go back to look at it, I have it outlined pretty easily. I can pretty much pick up on it very, very quickly about where my mind was, even if it's years before. I can do that. I would say that on average, I'm probably listening to about 3 Audible books a week on average. And I'm averaging, a couple years ago, I was averaging at least 2 to 3 regular books a month. Now it's probably 1 or 2, maybe 2 at the most. So that's what, 120, whatever it is, a year. Think about that one time. Roy, think about that. What does that do to your mindset about the world? It totally blows it up. It totally blows it up. I remember when I was in law school, I had absolutely no skill and ability as far as learning how to really digest material. Some people are like born with that stuff. I fell off the truck, I think, when they were driving with that stuff. But I had to teach myself how to do it. And I was so anxious to get that knowledge. Even today, I'm like, I don't think I could do without it. Now here's the downside of it, where you're ingesting so much that you really don't get a chance to really understand the material that you're doing. So you have to slow down a little bit. So it's not about the number. Okay, it could be 20 books here, 10 books, 5, whatever it is. It could be 1. But you have to do it. How many kids, I call them kids, college kids or young people, are reading nowadays? No. But somebody is, because the Barnes & Noble up in New York just reopened, and apparently I think they serve coffee and all that stuff too, so people like to browse. A book is a precious thing, and what's inside that book is what really counts. So I would say to you, you have to do it. I don't want to hear this excuses to not doing it. We all drive at least 10, 15 minutes one way or the other. Some of us longer. I drive sometimes a couple hours during the day. Speed that damn thing up a little bit, okay? You get through a book a week. Read it. You're going to love it. It's going to change. It's going to really literally change your life as far as what you're trying to do. All right. In my book, I wrote a little story about someone that I really admire that helped me out a lot. And I would say he was one of my early proteges. Peter Angelo's. And he basically said to me when I was about 18 years of age, and I was hell on wheels in a lot of ways. He said, Jimmy, the people that are successful in life are the ones that constantly reinvent themselves. And he was probably in his 50s at that point in time. And I think he was just, at that point in time, was just about to buy the Baltimore Orioles. And he created this whole asbestos scenario. And it wasn't just in Baltimore. It was brilliant the way he did it. My father worked with him for years. And what Pete did is he took really basic work comp cases and turned them on their ear into civil litigation cases. Took a couple thousand down to the circuit court for Baltimore City at one time and said, here we go. And they almost lost it because what are we going to do with this? And as a result of that, they created his own little, I'll call it like a wing or section, court section, where he handled these, adjudicated these cases. And then he went to St. Louis and Missouri, and he expanded. He worked with other lawyers across the country. Bottom line is Pete found a way to reinvent himself along the way. And while he was doing that, you know what he did? He became the tobacco lawyer, okay, for the state of Maryland. Now, you got to remember something. Back at that time, in the 80s, 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, there was not one case that the tobacco industry lost. Not one. If they did and they settled, it was sealed. Okay. What was happening was these plaintiff lawyers were trying to pierce the veil and show that the tobacco industry knew that what they were serving to the public was insidious, was going to create the lung cancer and what have you. Not that it was the end result, that they knew it. And that they basically said, well, this many deaths, this much money, and they equated it, and that's what they did. And by the way, unfortunately, a lot of American companies have done that in this century. So Pete, Joe Kern was the Attorney General at the time. And Joe Kern sent out an edict to all the lawyers in Maryland, said, who wants to represent the state of Maryland against these tobacco companies? Now, at the time, there was like nobody wanted to do it because he said, by the way, you don't get paid. You only get paid if you win. And by the way, you also have to pay your own litigation costs, which I found out for the first 2 years for Pete was like $1 million, which is a lot of money, okay, back then. Still a lot of money. But he said, I will. So he goes from asbestos. Now he's the tobacco guy, right? And he signs a piece of paper. You know what that piece of paper says? State of Maryland hereby hires the law firm of Peter Angelo's on a contingency basis, and if you win or recover any money, then you get 1/3. And everybody's laughing like, 1/3 of nothing, right? You're not going to get anything. Well, lo and behold, Congress got involved years later. And Pete was representing the state, and I think I'm not going to give the exact numbers, but it would be a B, basically. And it was so much money that Angelo's never could have even imagined that was going to happen. Anyway, bottom line was that the state of Maryland got a lot of money in lumps. I mean, some in lump sum, but in payments. Pete went down to the State House, said, Governor, I want my money, okay? And he got it, but not all of it. He got a lot of it, and that's what happened. So the saying, reinventing yourself, we may not be going from millions and billions like that, but just reinventing yourself. And I heard something that recently Robert Kennedy Jr. said, which I really liked a lot. He said, and he's 69 years old, he said, in my life, sometimes it's the very small things that I have to reinvent and do that help change me and keep my life in perspective, that give me the ability to be successful in a big way. Pick up your towel in the morning, okay? When you go make your bed in the morning. Let's not go that far, but I'm just saying. But whatever it is. So reinvent yourself. Sometimes you've got to reinvent yourself 2 or 3 times a day. but that means a lot. Okay, you got to reinvent yourself. Okay. Will you please stop trying to please everybody in life? That's my next one. Okay. I mean, damn it. Okay. That's what most people do. Most people want to please everybody, and that's. I'm not saying. Please, no one say that he saw Jim on a podcast and they get into a fight with their child or their wife and said he said stop pleasing you. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying stop trying to please people. I'm going to use the word accommodate too. Have any of you guys ever seen the movie with Ty Cobb? The old it came out about 10 years, 15 years ago, and one of the things that he talks about it was everybody knows who Ty Cobb is. Okay, like him, hate him, whatever, on a social platform, but one of the best. I mean, the first Hall of Famer. Might have been the best doubles hitter ever in the game. Maybe some people say the best baseball player ever in a game. Well, in his book, okay, in his autobiography, it was written by a very well-known writer back then. This is like in the late 60s, 70s. And it was a situation where this guy was going to write a story about his life, and Cobb wanted to write it in a certain way, and he didn't want to do that. But the writer's name, he called him Stumpy. And he said, Stumpy this, Stumpy that. And Cobb was probably almost 75 years old at that point in time. And, of course, they're going back in their time. And Stumpy was going through a divorce. And Stumpy was a very well-known baseball writer, and he got to know Cobb. And they all thought he was crazy, but he got to know him. And Cobb looked at him and said, you know what your problem is, Stumpy? He said, what? He says, you accommodate people too fucking much. Okay, his wife was divorcing him or something, and he was all worried about trying to take care of her. He says, in my life, fuck that. I don't accommodate people. Now, I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's certainly something to think about in life. And what I mean by that, too, is this. How many people have I talked to or you seen, especially young people, they don't want to make the investment in themselves in education or in business because they're afraid of how it's going to affect their family or how it's going to affect finances or otherwise. If you take anything away from today, unless you're going to the NBA, unless you're going to play Major League Baseball, unless you have some kind of skill that's going to make you a lot of money, get your freaking education and pay for it. Yes, it's completely not cost worthy right now. I mean, it's crazy, right? Get your education. That means not just, obviously high school, but college, master's degree, graduate degree, medical degree, PhD, law degree, whatever it is. And you want to hear something funny? Talking about kids in law school, that's a whole different animal. I'm not even going to get into that, okay? A lot of good stuff. Some stuff I'm not too happy with. But I tell people, you know what the go-to degree is? Even in business, in my opinion? JD degree. Okay, think about it. Okay, there's so many people in business and entrepreneurs that have their JD degree. Other people say, no, Jim, you got to get your master's and your MBA and things like that. But you're limited to a degree with that. Now, other people will say it doesn't make a damn bit of difference what your degree is. If you're going to be successful, you're going to be successful. But I'm telling you right now, even if you don't even intend to practice law as a young person coming out of college, go get your JD degree. I mean, it feels good in your back pocket, and other people are going to notice it, believe me. Like, what's that in your back pocket? Oh, it's a JD degree. It's going to come in handy, and it's going to help you. So that's not a bad thing to do. But don't worry about people being upset with you because you want to get your education. Okay? Because guess what? Here's the wise world, the way it really works. When you get that education, and if it's a significant other or a family member, guess who benefits from that? Absolutely. Okay, so that's the way to do that. All right. So give up trying to be everything to everybody. Here's another one. And we're getting to the end, guys, but I kind of think it's worth it. You know what? Be around people that are successful. Be around people that are successful. That is like such a basic thought process. I'm going to be a little candid here, okay, besides you guys and all those people in my office. I'm looking constantly for people that I can, either buddy up with or try to learn from. I have a certain friend, I'm not going to mention his name, who is a billionaire, okay, who runs a well-known company everybody knows. Guess what? He has 3 coaches. 3 coaches. I'm like, what? And he pays money, like real live American money for these people. And I'm like, really? You don't have? It says, no, Jim. And it says, even if I do know what they're talking about, I still want the bantered around. I've got one that I argue like hell with. I got one that doesn't want to hear what I have to say, just tells me to shut up and sit down. And another one's I can kind of beat up on. So it's like, it's perfect. I kind of get it, it's like I'm fighting every fighter in the ring. But it helps him, as far as that. So that goes hand in hand with being around people that are successful. I went down, again, I'm not going to mention any specifics, but I went down to a business, best of Baltimore business invitation a while ago. And I was around people that, unbelievable as far as their thought process about business. And you know what's interesting? You know how you go into a room and sometimes it's like awkward, just depending upon who the people are, weddings or whatever. Man, I walked in there. These people are like, it's like if you could take an MRI of their brain waves as they're sitting there in that room, it's like electricity's coming off the brain. They just wanted, like, they just want to engage. Not that all of them are like great speakers or anything, but their thought process about life and about business and about things. And and the other thing about it is that a lot of these businesses help other people. A lot of the creativity and the imagination I was talking about before go back to help people in business, kind of like we do. I like to think that we do that in a lot of ways. Okay, so seek successful people. Okay, Ronald Reagan, Nancy Reagan, just say no. I'm not talking about the drugs. I'm just saying no to people in your life that want to suck up your time. And here's something else I'm going to say to you. Good, bad, or indifferent. Maybe it's not intentional, maybe it is. But not everybody in your life wants you to succeed. Now, they would never admit that. They may say, well, I want you to succeed, but you do it my way. And the way you do it is you work and you do this, you do that. Typical parents a lot of ways. You got to do this and do that, and that's how you get. No, you got to do it your way. You got to think about what's going to really do it for you. And then even if you don't know, do it anyway. Do the fucking opposite. Because, okay, what are you going to do? Lose some time and money because you got your education? Or whatever it is? Okay, so do what you got to do. Just say no to people. Do you feel like you're liked? Do people like you, Tyler?
Yeah, I think so.
People like you?
Yes, but I also probably know where you're going with this, but yes.
Right. I was a politician. Okay, I grew up in a politician's family. How you doing, sir? Nice to meet you. Ma'am, nice to meet you. The kissing baby thing never really happened that much, believe me. Most mothers didn't want me or anybody else kissing their babies. But it was, got to put this facade on, okay? You got to like me. You got to like me, okay? Because I need your vote. And I did that. I was elected official. I was my father, Peter Angelo's. I was involved in, gubernatorial elections, statewide Senate elections, national elections. And it's all about glad handling and kind of going down the middle to appease the most amount of people you can. Always with a smile. Wrong. Okay, real life doesn't work like that. Stop trying to please people, okay? You don't have to put yourself in a situation where you're liked, okay? I find it as very, very interesting, and I take a lot of this. I've tried so many jury trials, and one of the first things I used to say to a jury when I stood up, hi, I'm Jim Crawford, and I'm representing the guy that's not guilty sitting next to me, right? Of committing this heinous crime. I used to say to them, listen, don't take it out on my client if you don't like me. My Baltimore accent, okay, water, all this stuff, okay. You guys are down in Charles County or somewhere else. No, it's not about that. But don't take it out on my client. Now it's like, guys, I don't don't like me. Don't like me. In fact, don't like me. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. But the funny thing about it is, People they respect that, and they look to the issue more. So don't worry about people, and if you don't have half the people angry at you, then you're not doing something right. Okay. Next one, focus on productivity. What the key result there is, what is productivity? Okay, just goes back to what I was talking about, the lawyer in the office all day long. What are you measuring, and what is productivity? If it's reading a book once a week, if it's getting billable hours, whatever it is, creating product is what it is. Goals and OKRs go without saying. Okay, objective key results. That's something we should do in our lives, not just in our business. Okay. Here's one that I find very interesting: the word creativity and risk taking. What do you think I mean by that? The ones and the people that take risk win eventually. You fail, but you take a risk and you win. But guess what? You never win if you're not creative in how you take that risk. Right? So I'm going to sell a product, and I'm selling this pen. Okay, I sold 100 of them. Just not working. Well, I'm going to try it again. I'll put more money up, and I'm going to try it again. Same outcome. Didn't sell a whole lot. Creativity. Well, you know what? If I put like a little logo on here or something, I did something, and I sold it to like to a college with a logo or all the logos. I'm going to take another risk. Use a little creativity. All of a sudden, powwow. There you go. Success. All right. So, excuse me. Think about how creativity and risk taking play hand in hand. Here's a favorite saying of mine that I created. I think in a lot of ways. It's not copyrighted, but by any means. But I say it a lot. I've said it for years. Run to the fire, not into the fire. Run to the fire. This thought process I used to come up with when I was a solo practitioner. I only had a few people working for me. I'd sit there on a Saturday. Okay, let's look at my finances. Oh, 0. Okay, there you go. Or very little. I'm spending this on that and this and that, or media spend or what have you. The first instinct most people have, and almost everybody in my life that I've seen that has not been successful, or they cut back. Their first instinct is to cut back. Kill it, spend less. My instinct has always been, no, let's find a way around and do it this way. Now, I'm not saying spend your way out of the habit, because that doesn't work, all right? But I am saying run to the fire, because the fire is going to keep coming back. If you cut back, it's still going to be there at some point in time. And at some point in time, you gotta put out that fire and fix it. Don't make it just about the money. Okay? I mean, so many times in my practice and in other businesses I've been involved in, I really get into it. You know, like we all get into media a lot, right? We deep dive into that. We think about this, and we get into the SEO portion. We get into the website. Good job, by the way. Everybody go take a look at the new website that my guys put together. New mapping. We have some marketing stuff up there. We got these blogs, and we've got some video blogs and some good stuff up there. So take a look at it. I think you'll find it's one of the cutting edge as far as lawyer websites across the country. But running to the fire, but not making it just about the money. So you get into it in your craft, doing what you're doing, and all of a sudden you look up. It's a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later. It's like, wow, everything else kind of fell into place because you're doing what you need to do. The product rules the day. If you're given a good product, usually, if you have everything else working on the on button, it's going to show success and create success. Next one, okay, fail as often as possible. How many times you heard that? I think I've heard that a million times. Don't fail catastrophically, okay, all right? Fail incrementally and keep doing it, all right? Keep doing it. Discipline, perseverance, characters does play a part. Number 20, last one that I kind of put together, and I've played I like to think that I kind of pushed this out there a lot the last couple of years, more than anybody else. I didn't invent the word, but it's kind of, I don't hear it very often, and in some dictionaries it's not even in. entrepreneur versus an entrepreneur. Okay? Entrepreneur, there's more people successful money from money standpoint and other success than there are entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs lose a lot. They go out of business. They got to keep starting over again. An entrepreneur is someone who goes to a business, finds a niche, like the media department at JC Law, right? Finds a niche, and all of a sudden is very successful in that business from every possible aspect you can imagine. And the end result is what it is. So that's long. I think we went over our time a little bit, guys, here, but I think that it's something that's important. Listen, if you have to, increase the speed, but listen to each one of these things and really think about it. Think and Grow Rich, okay? That's something that's going to play a part in this. But everybody, stop lying to yourself. Stop fooling yourself. These are not comprehensive, surefire ways of being successful. But I promise you that if you listen to them, look at them, think about it, write it down, create it, and go over it and over it and over it and over it and over it, you're going to be successful. I don't care if it means that you're selling ice cream. I don't care if it means that you're practicing law. I don't care if it means you're doing anything in life. This is what's important. Stop lying to yourself. Guys, I'll see you next time. Take care. See you a little bit.